Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another day of the video diary. How's it going today? Today, it's bizarrely warm. It's really warm, actually. I woke up this morning and there was no condensation on my windows, so it's that warm. The wind over this bit is absolutely infuriating, isn't it? God damn it. I left this morning, got outside, realised how warm it was, and I'm like, there's a storm coming today, isn't there? There's a storm on its way. And then it dawned on me that I haven't actually seen a weather forecast in about 3 years since I went to university. I haven't seen a weather forecast. I just get up in the morning, look out window, that'll do. Or if it's a weird day like today, or now I'm getting up before it's even light, I check to see whether it's going to be raining at about 5 o'clock because that's when I'm coming home, so I bring my umbrella if it is. That's as much as I go by weather forecasts these days. So GG. Otherwise though, assuming you can hear me because it's quite windy, probably storms coming, that's why. Today we're on fire again. I'm feeling like I'm in the mood to kill. We're going to be spitting fire at work today. It's going to be great. I'm dressed in all black with the exception of my right shoe, which means usually that I'm in the zone. You can normally tell by what I'm wearing whether I'm going to be like on it or not. But this outfit was deliberately picked because I am feeling like I've had enough bullshit. These mappings, I'm bored of them. They're being finished today. I don't care. They're being finished and I'm going to try and call the other service. That's the plan. I have a feeling I might be dragged out into a meeting, dragged, kicking and fucking screaming, into a meeting about testing, which is going to be annoying because we're kind of in a weird environment where both me and all of the devs now have left, apart from me and Dave. But me and Dave, our last days is tomorrow. Thursday is our last day. And then the testers are there all the way until Christmas Eve. So I don't know what they're going to be testing. Nothing is changing on our team, like literally nothing. As of Thursday, my last commit will be in. They're not even testing anything that I'm doing. So Dave's last commit will be in. It doesn't take them 3 days to test it. So who knows? Who knows what they're going to do at that time. I think that's what the testing meetings for, to be honest with you. But I have zero input on that. So, well, in fact, I have opposite input. If I go to that meeting, like the only way I can help them is by finishing. So, don't drag me to the meeting and then you can test what I've done. That's all I could do. If I don't finish, you can't test it. So don't drag me into meetings. But it's alright, I don't mind meetings. They pay to sit around and talk, so I don't mind that. But yeah, we're heading off in. We're probably going to get there for about 8:30 because I had to go back and get my umbrella. But that's no problem at all because I'm already ahead on the old flexi time. So if anything, I shouldn't really get in till 9, to be honest. But YOLO, 2K14 1922. I'll probably end up leaving at 5 again, but I want to leave at 4:30. So we'll see. Oh god. It's getting harder and harder to wake up in the morning knowing that there's only 1 day left. One more day. One more work day and then we're out. We're out of here. Bus in 2 minutes. That's alright. Oh, blimey. Does that mean I'm going to be there for 1:15? No. And ladies and gentlemen, I am home. I decided to wait until I got here so that you could see me and I don't have another thumbnail of me going like this in the dark. Because thumbnails in the dark are always terrible. So then, what's been going on today? Today we managed to finish off all of our mappings and things like that, which is good. We've got everything going into the object that we need to do it in, and I also have that calling off to a service and returning back a quote, which, ladies and gentlemen, is exactly what I needed to do, and I have finished my goal 2 days early. Why, thank you very much. Thank you. So yeah, that was really good. I was working through. I even got blocked a couple of times by other teams who needed to create stuff for me to be able to actively do it. Currently we are quoting across the old... Ukulele there was annoyed at the fact that I had to wait for people. Currently our system is quoting over the old, well, the simple route. They were working on populating the other route for us as I left, basically. I didn't leave till 5:30 today. So there's another hour and a half of flexing. I'm on like 9 now, nearly on 10. YOLO. Only need 7. Make it rain. But I got it done. And that's the most important thing. I think I have shined. Quite frankly, I'm so proud of myself. Nobody can take that away from me. I'm aware of the fact that my solution is not a solution that Dibble will do, and I'm assuming Ben will do, but it is fully functional, fully works, fully tested, and in my opinion, in the ways that matter, more efficient. Dibble was saying that he would have done it this way, and I said, well, arguably you're using twice as much memory to do it that way. And he goes, yeah. We had a discussion halfway through when he was setting up the endpoint for me to get the quote back. We had a discussion towards the end of it about like different ways of possibly solving the same problem, and he says he's really impressed that I've been able to pull it off in the speed that I have. Thank you, Dibble. But he would have done it in a slightly different way, which does make it easier to test. It does, I will admit, make it quite a little bit much easier to test. Changing battery, it does make it a little bit easier to test, but is less memory efficient than my route, and arguably a tiny little bit tidier, but all you're doing is moving the mess into a file where you won't see it all the time. The mess is still there, it's just somewhere else. And he started talking about Unity, which is something that I've never heard of before today, which is something that we could have done, but myself and Ben decided not to use it. Should put my phone on loud, really. Me and Ben decided not to use it consciously, for reasons I didn't understand, because I didn't know what Unity was at the time, and for reasons I still don't understand. So I'm assuming Ben has a good reason why we decided to not bother with it for now. It basically only really helps out with testing, to be honest with you, and it's tested. It's tested absolutely fine, absolutely stable, rock solid. We had a couple of discussions about what we should be testing and things like that, because we're obviously doing unit tests and stuff, but then the contentious issue is, what is a unit? Essentially, before I go off onto a talk about what I think a unit is, essentially I have finished everything I need to do. I've got a solution implemented, and while apparently it could do with some refactoring, which to be fair it could do, the tests specifically are quite big and ugly. There's about 1,600 lines of code, I think, which is a lot. There shouldn't be that many lines of code. But one simple fix would be just to have a initialize test thingy every single time. That would be the quickest way, just to literally over half that, which I was told not to do that. But anyway, that's a design decision. So, unit testing. Basically, what I'm saying is, my solution is perfectly fine. What they were arguing about, kind of, was how it's tested, which it should be tested with Unity instead of with other thing. But when you actually drill down into it, the way I've tested it makes sense because of the solution we have. What we do is we are currently in our system, we take something in here, we convert that into an object. We go, right, bam, here's this object. We take in a file, basically, a text file. We convert that into an object. So inside that file, there's a load of fields that are saved into different fields. That's all fine. We then create another field, which is being used by the system lower down, and we populate that with all of the data that was in that original file. It's easier to go from object to object than it is, but it's easier to go from file to object than it is to go from file to straight end object. It's a lot easier. And we have to do this as efficiently as possible. So, what we did was, we went through this route. What am I talking about? What am I talking about, Lewis? Yeah, so that's what we have there. We have this populator. What we do is, we pass in the object we're going to populate, and it cycles down the list. We have an orchestrator, which is dealing with the chain of command, and that goes down all of the objects in line, and it goes through all of the populators. There's something like 6 populators, and some of the populators are smaller than others. Some of them are literally just like 4 fields that they do. Some of them pull in something like 10 different mappers, and that is where it starts getting a bit big and ugly in the test, because you then have to stub out the mappers and stuff like that. So, that is what our system does. Because we never return the object, we do everything by reference, we can't do a black box test of, call this, does it return the right thing? Because it doesn't return anything. So, instead, what I was doing as my unit tests, and this is what I believe, I still stand by this as well, I believe unit tests is. A unit, as far as I am concerned, is the smallest measurable chunk of code, i.e. a method. Let's have a discussion about this. Some of you guys are developers. What would you guys say? Because currently I think it's only me and Ben that think of it the way we think about it. And Ben is apparently very pedantic. But I would agree with his level of pedanticity in this sense. Pedantic is no word. So, you have the unit is the lowest level of the smallest method you could possibly have. The smallest size chunk unit that you could do. And then what you do is you expand out from the unit and you test. So you test it on the lowest level possible, then you test out. I would consider a unit to be a method. I would consider a class to be the thing that you're unit testing. So for each class you make, you should have a class that's identical in every single way, except it ends with the word tests, and inside there are a load of tests that test every single method within that class. It takes some time to do that, obviously, because you're doing a lot of tests, but I believe that by doing that, you have a much stronger level of granularity control over what it is that you are testing. So, let's say, I have to use my hands to draw this because otherwise I'm going to draw it by pointing at the table. Okay? This is you, by the way. Hello, Mr. Camera. So, here is what I was doing. Okay? So each mapper is like this, and it's got a class. Each mapper is a class, and inside that is one method. I wrap unit tests around this class, and by henceforth this one method. And I go through and pass that all of the things that it needs to be able to deal with. So I pass it, say if it can map 4 different values, 1, 2, 3, 4, into 4 different things, I will pass it 1, 2, 3, 4, make sure it does what it's supposed to do, and then I will pass it 5. What do you do when you're given something you can't map? They're the tests that I will throw in at it. I will then take a step back, go to the unit just above that, the unit that calls that, and I will test to see if this unit calls that unit. The reason for that is, and then what I will do is I will just stub out that unit. So instead of running that unit inside the test, I will say, all we need to do is just intercept the call. Yes, we made the call. Job done. You pass the test. Move on. The reason I would do that, personally, is because if something were to go wrong, you know exactly where that error is. You know whether it's an error with mapping the 1, mapping the 2, mapping the 3, mapping the 4, mapping something that isn't even in the field, in the scope, or you know that it's in the call itself. If you were to map the call itself, which is what a lot of people say you should do, then you don't know at what point that failed. You're going to have to go through and spend time debugging that to figure out exactly where your error's going. And if you were to expand this out again, what I would do as well, if I was inside that mapper calling out another function, I would wrap tests around that function as well. So if you had a chain of different things that called each other, you've got this daddy thing here, you've then got a public interface here, which you're testing. I'm doing test all of the possible inputs here. Test if you test all possible inputs, test invalid input, then test if you've called it. I don't even care if you've actually, like, what happens inside this bit here. I just want to know if I've called it. So, if something in here calls something down here, I will wrap tests around this, make sure this calls this. That's the most efficient way of doing it, in my eyes, because you know if something breaks here, this isn't breaking, this stays the same, this breaks. You know exactly what point down the line your thing breaks. Whereas if this thing was a huge chain, the top one breaks, where's the error? That is what I would consider a unit test, because that is the lowest level of granularity that you can get out of a system, and you know that each individual method works and that you are calling the methods you need to call in order to get the job done. Phew. Other people would argue that technically the unit is the thing that calls it in the first place, and what you should do is you should go, right, this calls it, so I'll run this with the criteria it needs to call it, and then I will make sure that the return value is the return value I expect, which covers all the same tests. It covers every single outcome I just talked to you about that I'm covering, but if one of those were to fail, then you wouldn't know at what point along the line it failed, which is why I don't consider that a good unit test. Other people don't disagree with me, because what I'm doing is I'm linking up the tests quite heavily with the code. If you were to change, say if you were to call a method, I've got a method, say, has get true or false. No, it's not, it's just called get true or false. Returns a boolean, and what you do is you call it with, you send an integer to it. If the integer's 0, it's false. If it's anything else, it's true. That's what it does. It's basically just a private thing that sits behind the scenes. Where was I going with that? Because my test basically stubs that out, if you were to go back in later, change that method so it did something else, but it still returned true or false, it would fail my unit tests. Because, well, it wouldn't though, would it? Because my unit tests are... No, this is more of a admin level. So if I'm doing the top one that's doing the are you calling this, if someone else moved that call and then did a different call that also did the kind of same thing but in a different way, then my method that said you didn't call this method, the test broke, will obviously break. And it'll be like, right, okay, no, you didn't call this method because I didn't call it. Something else was called. It doesn't even know that you returned true or false. It's just like, no, you didn't call it, so you're broken. But at which point, if you're going through and you're refactoring, you're writing tests for your new code, then you should be aware of what is dependent on that code anyway, so you should be able to adapt those tests in order to run it. So, I am very much team the other way. I don't understand what, apart from the time disadvantage of it taking more time to do, I don't understand the disadvantage of going in at such a low level and doing unit tests on every single different thing. Apart from the fact that later, if you come to refactor it, you will have to change the tests in some scenarios. If you're going to be changing methods, or you're going to be changing this, or changing that, or changing this, you may have to change some tests. Which, in theory, which is never really true, you're supposed to write your test once, and then that test will cover every single implementation you ever do. But that's not true, because if it's got dependencies, then you're going to be putting stubs in anyway, so you'd have to change the stubs. So, but yeah, so we had that discussion today. It's quite nicely been narrowed down into the focus of what would you call a unit. That basically defines the entire argument there. I would say it's a lot smaller than a lot of other people will. That's what I've been taught. I've been taught that a unit is the smallest thing you could possibly have. Other people have been taught that a unit is a higher level, basically throughput, a public interface is what most people would say it is. And then other people would say it's a thing that does something. Even though that thing they're blatantly wrong. It's either the public interface or the lowest possible. I will narrow it down to that much, but not that it does something thing. That's bullshit. So yeah, we had that discussion. We also had a discussion on the way that I went about testing it with. I did it with dependency injection instead of the Unity backwards thing. Oh fuck, what's it called? Okay. Interface segregation principle, which will be the other way of... Oh no, dependency inversion principle, that's the one, which will be the fact that nothing knows how to create itself. It's all created somewhere else, so it's all created in one area instead of somewhere else, which confuses the hell out of me. I don't understand why you can't just use dependency injection. Dependency injection, in my eyes, is, although there are more lines of code there, it's more blatantly obvious what's going on, as opposed to the other way, which seems odd, because things are created as soon as you access the service. As soon as you access the service, the top level will go, right, you're going to need this, creates them all, and then just passes them down the chain, instead of you going down the chain and going, right, I need this, create it. The idea is that your service has no idea how to make the things it depends on. Those are created outside of itself, which is crazy shit. I never even knew that kind of thing existed. It makes no sense to me, and I would have never have implemented it. But what I have implemented is a very good substitute. Again, going the other way, it depends on using twice as much memory, or just under twice as much memory, which, to be fair, these days means jack all. Twice as much memory is bugger all. You're talking like bits. Well, no, you are talking bytes of information, but bytes on a computer that's running like, well, servers don't even run 16 gig RAM, they run more. So servers of that capacity don't care about double, but when you're running 2 to 10 million things a day, those extra bits add up. So yeah, That was our discussion. Otherwise though, I've got it working. I've got it checked in. There may be discussions about whether we refactor it again in the future, but I don't care because it works and no one can take that away from me. I pulled that off and people are pleased with it. People agree to a certain extent with the way I've done it. There will be discussions about the way I've done it, but no one can argue I'm wrong. So that's the best part. I love when people can't argue that you're wrong. Otherwise though, I ended up staying slightly later than I wanted to, mainly because I was just checking the last thing in and then the bus went by and then the every 10 minute bus was 40 minutes away. So I sat and waited for that in the warm and clocked up more time instead. And now I'm back and we're going to have cooking with Jamie again. Woo! So for tonight's recipe, what you are going to need is a big dinner plate, a smaller plate, a chopping board, a knife to chop things with, a cheese grater, and an oven which is preheating to 200 degrees. And when I say 200 degrees, what I mean is 180 degrees. And if you have a gas mark oven, get in the fucking 21st century, Jesus Christ. Why did I come over here? Tripod. You also need, if you're going to be filming, a tripod to hold the camera while you chop the vegetables, because chopping is dangerous and you should always get a parent to do the chopping for you. Okay, so what is it we're going to be making today, ladies and gentlemen? We're going to be making some nachos. What you basically need for nachos, and this will lie to you, this says you need this kit and then just add cheese. Bullshit to that, we're not just adding cheese, no siree. We're going to add everything under the sun to make this absolutely delicious. My nachos have a very good reputation with themselves on the internet, and they are a house favourite when Laura's around to stay. So we always have nachos. But what you need is a nachos kit like this, or some nacho chips, and some nacho topping, which is basically salsa. So you just need some nachos and some salsa. Otherwise, what you need in your little lives is some cheese, for which we have gone for Pilgrim's Choice mature cheese. We have also got ourselves a bit too large red pepper, but you can never have too much, really, can you? Gone for some green jalapeno chilies, and we want a singular red onion, which is currently in here. And I believe that's everything that we need in our lives for this dinner. So once you've got all of this, pause the video, go and buy everything you need here, get your plates, get your chopping board, get your nacho kit, get everything ready, and then we'll start. Alright, how's that sound? Okay then, ladies and gentlemen, so first up what we're going to do is we're going to chop our pepper. And I'm going to take my hoodie off as well, because it's not nice cooking in a hoodie. I like to have bare arms when I'm cooking. What's this framing like, actually? I haven't checked. How's that? Yeah, that looks good to me. I just moved the camera, so it's probably not in the same place again. But anyway, so last time I did a cooking with Jamie, Andrew suggested cutting down through the pepper like this. Last time I go round it like that and then pull out the centre. Andrew said cut down, and I've never tried cutting down. I imagine it'll be quite wasteful, but we'll see. We shall see if I can even cut into this bad boy. See, I'm already not impressed. I don't like it, Andrew. Because now as well, I want to cut there, but the seeds are in the way. So what we're going to do is we're going to revert back to golden oldies, and we're going to go around the edge and then just pull it out. I'm not a fan of that, Andrew. I tried it. I don't like it. Just purely because, like, that angle there is just the wrong angle. I like it a much more cupped, if you know what I mean. Not that I am Ainsley Harriott or someone. Is Ainsley Harriott even a chef, or is he a footballer? I feel like he's a chef. Who am I thinking of? Who's the footballer that's like that? He definitely is a chef. He was on Ready Steady Cook, wasn't he? That old classic. Does anyone remember from Ready Steady Cook the chef that always said, you you know, at the end of each thing. So we're like, right, you chop up the pepper, you know, like that, you know. Anyone remember that? That'll be a blast from the past for you there, ladies and gentlemen. But the difference between this and what I showed you last time is specifically the peppers themselves. You want to cut them as finely as possible. Not necessarily that way, but when you get to this, oh god, when you get to this direction like this, you want to get them in as smaller chunks as humanly possible. Well, not as humanly possible, you don't want them to be minuscule. But as you can see, look, they are at most like that big, like the size of my nail maybe, is as big as you want to go, about the size of your nail. And that is because you want to evenly distribute them over your nachos. And I'm going to cut the camera and I'll show you what that pile will look like in a minute when I move it to this side because it's on the wrong side of the chopping board. Here is my point with this now, look. How am I supposed to get my knife in? Well, I guess like that, because I just did it like that. But that is so much harder than it necessarily has to be. And then you've got to like fight it a little bit to get it back on track. I'm not too much of a fan of that, unfortunately, Andrew. I do apologise, but you need to revise the way that you cut peppers. Alright, dealing with the seeds is not a disadvantage. That is a disadvantage, my friend. But let's try. Get on old Jamie Oliver is fucking level, and then we'll be able to talk. I'm just waffling, move all that crap over so that you can actually see me cut up the onion. Same goes with the onion, you want to go as small as you can possibly go. Dice this like you've never diced anything before in your life. I was going to say that this is now the hard bit, but that's what actually is the hard bit, is starting the camera with oniony hands. So, you literally want to go as fine as you possibly can without losing the structural integrity of the entire onion. Unfortunately, the pepper was a lot bigger than I thought it was when I bought the pack. I normally try and buy a pack with 2 large ones and a relatively small one in, when I'm considering to do nachos. But I think I might have been considering to do something else when I picked up the pack. And then I thought, well, it's close to Christmas, I haven't had nachos in a while, we're going to YOLO my swag our way into having some nachos. So here what I'm doing is I'm just going along and I'm cutting halfway across the thing and in as smaller interval as possible. Now when I do this, it's going to fall to absolute shit at this end, because this end has lost its structural integrity like a mother trucker. But if you chop over like that, hold it together with your fingers, it should dice okay up until there. And then here, look, it's starting to fall apart on me, and I'm about to slice my fingers off, which we don't want. No one wants that. And if you do want that, maybe you should not waste your time watching my videos, because it's not a very nice thing to do. You obviously don't like me if you want me to chop my fingers off. And then here, look, you're just going to have to bite the bullet and just rock your knife across it and just make sure that you chopped it up as small as you possibly can, and then get onion juice right in your eye. Bloody hell. And then rinse and repeat with the other one. Basically, ladies and gentlemen, that is as simple as it gets. Bam, 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 bam. That literally went right into my cornea. My fucking cornea, mate. It burns. It's burning my corneas. That's what it's doing. Chop, 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 and chopperoo. And then bang, bang, bang. This one's better than the other one. Bang. And then I'm not going to go for this last one because I know it's just not going to happen. So I'm just going to have to cut it like that, unfortunately. Okay. Pepper. Done. With a capital D for done. We did, however, establish that the pepper was done a while ago, so that was the onion that's actually done here. And now what we're going to do is we're just going to pick out a chilli. I'm not even going to use these chilies, but they didn't have any single chilies in. So do I put more than one chili on? I think we will. We'll put 2 chilies on. I won't eat them all when I actually eat the dinner. Oven's warming up. Because 2 chilies is too hot. But if you cook 2 and put 2 on, then all of the flavours of 2 cook through the whole thing. So the whole thing is spicier, and then you just don't eat as many slices as you normally would. And for this, use top and tail. Top and tail. And then we slice this way. And again, cut it as fine or as chunky as you like. I quite like fine, and I'm actually thinking that 1 will be enough, to be brutally honest with you. But we'll see. I'll cut up 2, and then we'll see if we use enough to knead the second one. If not, we'll just throw it in the bin. That's where the rest are going. They're just not being chopped up. We're just giving this guy a slow death, decapitating him. Ooh, there he goes. Remember as well, rookie mistake, don't touch your eyes when you've been messing about with chilies. Or onions for that matter. Onions aren't nice when they get in your eye, as we've established earlier. This pepper's chili is falling apart. Right. And then the big ones at the end. So, you've got your veg. Now it's time to grate your cheese. It's going to be a long video today. Just washed my hands and got some soap there. Proof I'm washing my hands. Yeah, it's going to be a long waffly video today, isn't it? Guess you've already noticed that. So, grating your cheese, ladies and gentlemen. There's no fine art to this. Everyone's seen how you grate cheese. But I'm going to give you one tip. When it comes to nachos, what you need to do is you need to remember that more cheese, the better it is, basically. There's no scenario where you put less cheese on and it turns out nicer than if you were to put slightly more on. So what I normally do is go for about half a block, and I normally end up grating some more again later. Remember, ladies and gentlemen, cheese is good for you. It's milk. Milk's good for you. It's just milk that's gone out of date, isn't it, cheese? Well, that was the worst cut ever. I've literally missed the line I was supposed to cut along. Get out of town, mate. Come on. I'll do this on camera, mate. Come on now. Go, Roo. There we go. Jesus Christ, I'm in. Yeah, so you get your cheese. Get your cheese, which is why I've washed my hands, because half of this block is going to go back in the fridge. I don't want to get oniony. And you just grate. Just grate away. And then you get annoyed because that always happens. And you try and make sure it's nice and even. And then it just happens in the other direction. And rinse and repeat, basically, until you think you've got enough cheese in there. Okay, so that is how much cheese I'm going for, which is just over half a block, to be fair. But the more the better, like I say, and I've put the block away, so I'm not tempted to grate some more cheese. So now we've got all of our ingredients out and ready, prepared. We can throw that in the washer. We don't need that anymore because I don't want any more cheese, because this is a ridiculous amount of cheese, and I've got just about enough left for some cheese on toast. Now what we do is we pull in our second plate, the big plate, and we start making the nachos themselves, ladies and gentlemen. This, ladies and gentlemen, is where this technology, this becomes a bit more of an art, and I'm going to reposition the camera a bit. Okay then, ladies and gentlemen, let's be quite frank. Everybody here can do everything we've done up to this point. This is not rocket science. The bit that is rocket science, the bit that will make and break your nachos, is this bit right here. So, what you do is, you get yourself out of your bag of nachos like this, about half of them, maybe a bit more than half, by going like that. Put them on the plate, and then you have to systematically go around and make sure that you have a nice even spread. You go around the plate, around the plate, around the plate. It's kind of annoying because I have curved plates. They're not perfectly flat, so everything just like falls into the middle, which drives me absolutely crazy. I'm not going to lie to you. But we survive, and you go round the outside, all the way around, and then you start to fill in the middle with all of the ones you've got left over, making sure that you cannot see as much of the plate as possible. Right, so you go round, and you're going round, and you're going round, and you want to make sure that this covers as much of the plate as you possibly can get it to, right? Is everybody hungry? Don't try and taste them, they taste like crap until you've cooked them. So, what's next then, ladies and gentlemen? So, this is where things get a little bit like, ooh, what are you going to do? What I do now is I put the salsa on. The salsa, which, what accent's that? The salsa. Ooh, it's the salsa. Is that Italian? Who knows? It's crap, whatever it is. Jesus Christ, throwing scissors around. Be safe, ladies and gentlemen. That's why you need a qualified adult to do this for you. Bam! Now, in this pack, there comes 2 of these. You want to use 90% of the first one on this layer, because from this point on, you're going to be starting to build up, and each little ring is going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. So you want to use, well, to be fair, you don't, but you want about a dollop on each and every single one. If there is a dry one in here, then you have failed. and you need to restart the video, rebuy all your stuff, re-chop everything up again, and you can start again, okay? You want to make sure that there isn't one, and I'm going to make sure now, because otherwise you guys will crucify me. That one is behind the scenes, you can't see it. I guarantee you that there is not one in here that does not have any tomato sauce on. And this is where it becomes a bit of an OCD task. This isn't just about globbing on whatever you want, wherever you want it, okay? You have to do this. This is an art. Okay, next you get some peppers. And likewise, you sprinkle around. You do want this a bit random. You don't want one pepper on each, otherwise why don't you just make 1,000 pizzas? So, you sprinkle this around. You want slightly more towards the middle. Make sure you don't neglect the outside. We have got a lot of pepper here, so I'm going quite liberal here on the old pepper. Then get your onion, do the exact same. We've got slightly less onion, so we will go like this and sprinkle all of that on. Also, doesn't the sauce look like a hideous brown colour? Would you not agree with me there, ladies and gentlemen? I would agree with myself, because I am a fucking genius. Then you will get yourselves your jalapenos. This is definitely not the case. I've put one on each. You will definitely concentrate on the middle here, and you just put like 5 on. Depends how spicy you like it. If you like your spicy food, then chuck as many as you bloody well like on. Okay, you then get your cheese, and you go all the way around, all the way around. This is a bit like the tomato sauce. You want to make sure you cover as much of it as possible, but you want to save quite a lot of cheese. Where you put in the majority of the tomato sauce, the majority of the peppers, the majority of the onions on this layer, you aren't putting the majority of the cheese on this layer. You put the majority of the cheese on the very last layer. So, here we got that. Is that all good? I believe so. I believe that is a good enough coverage. Now what you do, very simply, and I'm not going to show you this because we'll be here a week, and this will be the longest video I ever upload to this channel. What you then do is rinse and repeat. You go around and you just ever so slightly in, a bit like a pyramid. You go around, try and put the broken ones on the inside as well, because they just add structural support. They aren't actually for eating, they're just structurally sound. And you continue to go around and round and round and repeat and repeat and repeat, and I will show you what it looks like when I have finished. That right there is level layer number 2, and I am going to lift up your camera as well, and I've got music on in the background, so we're just going to talk over that a little bit so that you can't tell. We're now going to work on, I believe, the second to last layer, and now things change a little bit for the final layer. So what we need to do now is we're using the very ends of our bag here. The secret now is not to use all of the broken ones, because you don't want to just cover it in dust. You want to make sure you've got all of your best ones out, you're making the most of the packet, but if they're like really small like that's not going to help anyone. It's not there for structural support anymore. You may as well just eat it, even though it tastes like absolute crap. But you've been cooking this for absolutely ages, because this takes a decade to prepare. And look, now I'm running out of places to put this. It's actually a really tall pyramid. I don't normally get this high. All the rest of it is basically crap. Okay. So, repeat as before. However, you aren't just putting it on the layer you're currently putting it on. You are putting it down the entire side. Which is why you concentrate on the middle when you're doing the original towers. Oh god, they're really horrible. Just go down the side, all your salsa. Should have maybe 25% of the last packet left at this point. Oh, I've got an escapee. Get back up there, mate. And to be fair, I think that's as much salsa as we need. Otherwise it'll start to go soggy. It's an art getting the salsa right, because it will start to go soggy. Okay, peppers. Again, kind of all down the side. And this is the problem, because this is a very messy sport. It all falls down. You end up having to do quite a bit of washing up and cleaning after, because one, you've used loads of different utensils in order to get here, like your plates and stuff, and 2, you've dropped about 7 metric tons of onion and pepper everywhere as you try and scatter it around randomly. Now you get your cheese, and this is the most important part. You put that all around the outside. You want to make sure that this covers the entire thing, because Not so you can't see the inside, just so that, and yes, I am going to eat this in one go, by the way, just so you're aware of that. Just before you guys say I need to put on weight, I do try. Yes, what you do is you get a nice spread of the cheese all the way around the outside, because as this will bake, this will turn a nice golden orange, and that's when you know it's cooked. And I will now give you a panorama of it, ladies and gentlemen, ignoring, oh my god, it's quite close. Okay, ignoring the mess around this thing. Here's what it looks like, all the way around. There is not one single part of this that is a letdown. It is all absolutely fantastic. As you can see, it's a bit problematic mess. This is how much I've used. I've used 1.5 chilies, the whole onion, and then a bit of pepper. Now what we're going to do is we're going to bung it in the oven for God knows how long. It depends on how much stuff you've put on it. It depends on how much onion you've put on, pepper and all that, because this guide says something like 20 minutes. It's lying. Because we've put so much more stuff onto it, it takes a lot longer to cook, in the same way that if you've got a pizza from Sainsbury's and then threw your own peppers on it, it'll take a little bit longer because those peppers need cooking. But our oven's on 200, it's fully heated now, and now we are going to do the fight we always have to do in order to put it in. This vlog is really long, but here we go, this is the fun bit. We're probably going to have to lower that. Oh dear, oh dear. Put that one in there, and then you get your plate. This is the dangerous part, ladies and gentlemen. Yep, it's a good job we lowered it. And you put that in there like so. And then what we do as well, just for YOLO banter, we attempt to catch any falling debris from the mountain of nachos on that baking tray. Just because cleaning an oven, just so you know if you haven't done it, is an absolute bastard. And close that for a couple of minutes and just keep checking on it. Make sure you get it when it's nice and brown. Right, I'm going to do some tidying up. The advantage of this is you then take that out of the oven and you eat it from the plate you cooked it on. So after, there is very little washing up to do, but at the moment there is a lot to do, but you can do it all before you finished eating. So I was like having very little washing up to do after I finished eating compared to before. But yeah, let's get all this crap in the bin, shall we? Jesus. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. Nice and cooked all the way around. You could put it in for a bit longer if you wanted and get the cheese a bit more golden, but I'm not going to, because I am a hungry man. So then, ladies and gentlemen, I am going to end the video here because I am basically wetting myself at this precise moment in time. Hearthstone just came to the Nexus. Everything ends today. I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to quit uni. I'm going to quit daily vlogging. I'm going to quit absolutely everything, and I'm going to do nothing but play this wherever there is Wi-Fi. And I think there's Wi-Fi everywhere with this bad boy as well. So I'm so excited. Oh my god. Oh my absolute god. But I'm going to end the video because today has been an insanely long day. We've talked about what defines a unit and hence unit testing. I've shown you how I make my fantastic nachos, which I do feel very fat for eating. I feel very, 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 very full. But that is that. So I'm going to get going. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen. I will catch you later for my last day at work this year.